The Eternal City, the Empire of 1,000 Years. It was the largest and most powerful empire the world had ever known, a civilization that seemed invincible. So how did it die? This wasn't a single event. It was a long, slow death by 1,000 cuts, from enemies both outside the gates and from within. This is the story of how the world's greatest empire crumbled into dust. This is the full story of the fall of Rome, in 3 minutes. The fall began long before the final collapse. By the 4th century AD, the empire was a hollow giant. It had been split in two. A wealthy, stable Eastern Empire ruled from Constantinople, and a poorer, chaotic Western Empire still ruled from Italy. The West was bleeding out. Endless civil wars, corrupt leaders, and a plague-ridden population crippled the economy. To defend its impossibly long borders, Rome was forced to hire the very barbarian tribes it once fought, incorporating them into its legions. The Roman army was no longer truly Roman. Overstretched, overspent, and rotting from within, the Western Empire was a fortress with crumbling walls. The final blow came from the east. In the late 4th century, a terrifying nomadic force, the Huns, swept out of the steppes, creating a shockwave of terror and migration. Fleeing the Huns, entire nations of Germanic tribes like the Goths sought refuge inside the Roman Empire. Rome mishandled the crisis, treating the desperate Goths with cruelty. This led to a massive rebellion and a catastrophic Roman defeat at the Battle of Adrianople, where an emperor was killed and a legion destroyed. The spell of Roman invincibility was broken. For the first time, huge barbarian armies were now roaming freely inside the empire, and Rome was too weak to stop them. The 5th century saw the final brutal act. In 410 AD, the Visigothic king Alaric, after being denied the rights and lands he demanded, did the unthinkable. He marched his army on Rome and sacked the city for 3 days. The psychological shock was immense. Decades later, the Vandals, another Germanic tribe, sailed from Africa and sacked Rome again, this time far more brutally. The Western Empire was now a mere shadow of its former self, its emperors reduced to powerless puppets. The final moment came in 476 AD, when the barbarian general Odoacer deposed the last emperor, a young boy ironically named Romulus Augustulus. He sent the imperial insignia to Constantinople, signaling that the Western Roman Empire was no more. The fall of Rome was not a single day, but a century of collapse. It marked the end of the ancient world and the beginning of a new, uncertain era. But the death of the Western Empire was not the end of Rome's story. In the East, the Roman Empire, now known as Byzantium, would survive for another 1,000 years. And in the West, the ashes of the Old World provided fertile ground for new kingdoms to rise, built on Roman law, Latin language, and a new, unifying faith. The Dark Ages had begun, but the legacy of Rome would endure.